Hi, wild listeners. Before the episode starts, I wanted to come on and do a quick shout out. We're working on lots of new and fresh Patreon content for you all, and part of that means that we have polls for you to participate in. So thanks to everyone who participated in our dragonfly poll on Patreon about what you're curious about. Those are great questions. I'm going to shout out just a few of you: Tiffany, Jason M, Merilee S, Tim H, Julia R, Michael D, and The Other Jacob. What a great Patreon handle that is. Thanks again for all your ideas. Wonderful. Okay, enjoy the show. Waves lapped along the shoreline of Cortes Island in British Columbia. A perfectly large boulder sat at the water's edge. That's the scene Brooke Williams encountered when he was taking a break from a science conference he was attending. He'd snuck away for some fresh air between sessions. He laid himself out on top of the boulder.
I was supposed to be reading this paper for this conference, and either I was very tired or the paper was very boring, but it didn't take long for me to fall right asleep. And I was sort of on the edge of this island, and for a while I thought, in my dream, am I dreaming or is this real?
Brooke is a naturalist, an author, and teaches creative writing at Colby College in Maine. And this dream would turn out to be a pivotal moment in his life and radically changed it. In this dream, he saw a boat motor into the bay. A woman was driving it. When she saw Brooke perched on his large rock, she reached down into the boat and pulled out a waterproof metal tin. It was attached to a buoy with a rope. She dropped the tin into the water next to Brooke, just offshore.
And then turned around, got behind the wheel of her boat, and drove away. So I knew that was for me. Something was in that case was for me. So I found my way down to these big, giant, flat slab stones and jumped in the water and swam out to the buoy that the rope was attached to. And I brought it back onto the shore, and I pulled it in, and I opened it up. And I reached in, and there was a perfect round, not spherical, but round and sort of flattish granitic stone that had a dragonfly engraved in it.
A dragonfly, in a simple dream, during a short nap. But when Brooke woke up, besides realizing he was late for the next session of the conference, he was kind of dazzled and felt the need to understand the significance of the dragonfly in his dream. Little did he know that it would take him on a 20-year journey to forge a new relationship with nature, one that focuses on magic and enchantment, the rarely seen wonders of the world around us.
I had in my mind what enchantment means. I mean, it's as a kid, you want to be enchanted. You want to have magic. You want to have awe. You want to have these amazing things that just grab all of your attention happen to you all the time.
But Brooke argues that our modern society has stripped away much of that magic. Our scientific knowledge and technology have led us to become disenchanted. When I first heard this, it echoed something a Native American friend of mine told me. She said to me that dragonfly is the essence of the winds of change, the messages of wisdom and enlightenment, and the communication from the elemental world. Call on dragonfly to guide you through the mists of illusion to the pathway of transformation. Brooke Williams, in his latest book, Encountering Dragonfly, notes on the practice of re-enchantment, opens himself up to that mystical and poetic meaning of the dragonfly, but also all the unseen forces in nature that are so captivating when we learn how to see them.
I think my work is to re-enchant the world. And since I have verbally said that, my life has radically changed.
My conversation with Brooke gets into some wonderfully thought-provoking topics, from how 200 million years of life on Earth have shaped the dragonfly, the role of dreams, and the importance of being attentive. What if the dragonfly is a messenger between worlds? What Brooke says might even get you thinking about your own life and how signs from nature can help guide it. From KUOW in Seattle and Chris Morgan Wildlife, welcome to the wild. Good, glorious morning.
I know, isn't it? Hi, I'm Brooke.
Brooke, lovely to
Nice
meet
to meet
you.
you.
I'm
It's a
Chris.
pleasure. Chris.
I met up with Brooke Williams at a small beaver pond near my home. I wanted a natural setting like this for the conversation I was hoping for. Brooke came prepared. When I saw he had his own pair of binoculars hanging from his neck, I knew we were going to get along just fine. The perfect time of year to be doing this.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if we might see a dragonfly or a damselfly. It might be a bit early.
I know it might be a bit early, but I saw
We eased our chairs into the muddy ground on the edge of the pond. I poured us both a cup of tea, and we settled in for our conversation. Brooke, we're here at this pond, and I'm so glad it's not raining. What do you see when you look around here?
there's like a whole spectrum from brand new life, like in these green grasses, who
Yeah.
knows when they started up, but then these age-old trees that look like they're about ready to rot and disappear into the murky bottom of this amazing pond. And oh, look at that little bird right there. What is that?
Oh, was it like a little chickadee? I
Yeah, a
think it
little
was.
chickadee,
Yeah.
maybe.
There's lots of red-winged blackbirds around. I'm hearing here too. That's beautiful, cool, and that's a song sparrow.
Yes. So it's a full spectrum of life and death and everything.
Beats a studio, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure beats a studio.
I know we're a bit early in the season, but we probably won't see any today. But would a dragonfly be happy here, do you think?
Oh, I would love to meet dragonflies that lived here. I bet they would be really happy dragonflies, for sure.
I love how you said I'd love to meet dragonflies here. That's
Yeah.
a special way of saying it. It's not like see them. That seems
Yeah.
so distant, doesn't it?
I bet there are dragonfly nymphs down there.
Yeah. What are they doing?
They're they're chasing other larvae from other insects, probably, or even minnows.
They eat minnows?
They eat little minnows. Some of them are really
I mean,
big.
that's not a big fish, but when you're dragonfly, it must be.
Yeah, yeah. They have this. First of all, they breathe out of their rectums, which I find fascinating.
Wow.
And
Really
they
choked on my tea then.
yeah, and they some of them have this thing on their face that they can shoot out to grab things. If a designer wanted to design some amazingly creative science fiction creature, a dragonfly nymph would be a great model.
Yeah.
So they're down there, and some species molt. They grow so that their outer carapace gets too small, and they break out of it, and they grow a new one, maybe 4 or 5 or 10 times throughout their life. They live longer underwater than they do out as adults.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. But we only get to see the magic of them when they're above the surface
Yeah.
of the water and in the aerial mode.
Yeah.
What a transformation. I suppose that must be all part of it, right?
Yeah. And that's why, in many cultures, dragonflies are considered the messenger between worlds, because they live most of their life in this inner, dark, wet world, and then a short time out in the bright air world of the air, where
Right.
they're master flyers.
It's sort of joining those two,
Yeah,
representing those two universes.
right.
It makes total sense, yeah. So you had the dream. It started your journey into this world of dragonflies. It's safe to say you became pretty obsessed. You're obsessed with these creatures, yeah. I know what that's like, and a healthy obsession with a wild animal. And you mentioned a couple of things about them. What's your favourite thing about them? I mean, the things that we can see and know about them, the physical things, perhaps, their traits.
What is amazing about the dragonfly is that, unbeknownst to me, until I was given this little model to put together, and there was this little thing, the last piece, that I had to fit between these two massive eyes. This thing's only this big.
A little wooden model kind of thing?
It was metal, and I
Oh.
had to bend things with tweezers.
Okay,
It was
yeah.
like, I was so cramped. I mean, it was so hard for me to do, but I finally got it put together. The last piece was this piece that fit between the two giant eyes, and I looked it up, and it's called the ocelli. It's actually 3 simple eyes, and these eyes, what's fascinating about them, they're connected. Almost all of the neurons are connected directly to wings, so the wings all operate independently, and they're controlled by this ocelli, and that's why a dragonfly can fly any direction, up and down, and it measures the horizon. It helps them keep the horizon horizontal, and measures light and dark, and so all that together, transferred directly to the wings, make it more like a flying gyroscope, where they don't chase anything; they just ambush it. They know where something's going to be, and they go get it when it's there.
Right.
I mean, it's fascinating.
Doesn't even need to pass through the brain.
It doesn't
Is that
pass
what you
through
say?
the brain. And it's
really?
like I thought, that's amazing that, because the brain just slows everything down.
Yeah.
And I think I've noticed that in my own life.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And that explains their successful hunting strategies.
You know why we know so much about this mechanism is because they're trying to copy it to make drones.
Just going to ask.
Yeah.
Has biomimicry come up?
Biomimicry.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
It sounds like a military thing.
Yeah.
Might be interested in dragonflies' third eye there.
I know.
Yeah.
They are.
Nature knows so much more than we could ever hope to, doesn't it? You
Yeah.
know? And I know that I've heard dragonflies are 300 million
years. That's
years
based
old.
on fossils. That's how long they think they've been around.
So they're very good at what they do.
Yeah, 300 million years, and we're what, 250,000
Yeah.
years? Our species has been around here, maybe.
Babies.
Yeah,
babies. I love that you're looking around with the binoculars between questions. That's great. I feel right at home. A true naturalist. So all of these things that you see and you witness in the physical world of the dragonfly, you know, you describe in your book that there are 10,000 invisible things happening around us all the time. And, you know, earlier when we sat here and I said, what are you seeing here? Describe what you're seeing at this pond. What are we not seeing?
Wow, that's really a good question. I think I don't know. If we're not seeing it, maybe we don't even know it exists, you know? And that's the other amazing thing is how limited is our consciousness to where we're only seeing a piece of what's actually out there. I mean, I love this idea when I was in biology, doing field biology, and we spent some time in the deserts of California and Arizona, and I'll never forget, we pulled out a infrared light and shone it at night, and the flowers that we had learned took on a completely different presence. They had these different designs on them. And the point is that bees that pollinate them can see that infrared, and that attracts them because, as you know, and this is so hard for me to get my head around, is everything out there that's wild, and if it's beautiful to us, it's only because that's its strategy for reproduction, for passing its life on to the future, for attracting its pollinator in the case of a flower. So they had developed these only visible to the infrared spectrum, these characteristics that attracted the bee, that particular bee.
Right.
Don't you think that's a miracle?
It is a miracle.
Yeah.
And it's something that they well know and they've honed over millions of years, but it is invisible to us.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know it unless someone had studied that, right? It is insane, yeah.
That's and to me, the metaphor of that, it's like, when you say, what aren't we seeing? I know that we're not seeing many, 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 many things because we are limited, you know?
And are you talking ecological things, scientific things, things that are happening we're not seeing, like how a bee sees a flower, how a leaf unfolds in the spring, you know, what's happening under the water? But is there another unseen you're talking about?
Yeah, I think
more like the spiritual unseen.
Yeah. And what if there was no really delineation between reality and the spiritual stuff? I love that thought, because if we can't see it, then we sort of have to believe it, right? And when you start talking about belief, then it's something that can't be proven or hasn't been proven. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's where life really gets interesting. Because just you asking that question, and I'm thinking, there's so much out there going on that we don't even know exists because it can't be scientifically proven or seen. And I want to believe it's all out there, and maybe it is a spiritual thing because of that. You know?
I used to teach at Western here, ecology classes and science classes, and one of the quotes I used to share with the students all the time when it was evident that I pretty much didn't know what I was talking about was a great quote from back in the day, which was, ecosystems are not only more complex than we think, but more complex than we can think.
I love that. That's exactly it.
Coming up after the break, Brooke Williams will explain how his obsession with dragonflies led him to a complex new understanding of the natural world, and how those unseen elements might just be the solution to our climate crisis. Hey, wild listeners, wildlings, I think that's what I'm going to start calling you. I like that. Hey, wildlings. Thanks for listening to The Wild. We're so happy you're here. If you want more wild content, you can visit our Patreon. So for just a few bucks a month, and this is new, it's all new and exciting for us, you can find extended interviews there with our favourite guests and polls for you to participate in, and conversations with my friend Ken about behind-the-scenes moments of making The Wild. We're calling it The Wild Side, and so much more. There's an easy link to Patreon in the show notes of this episode, or you can just search for Chris Morgan Wildlife on Patreon. Okay, back to the show. That dream Brooke Williams had about the lady on the boat and the stone engraved with a dragonfly, that dream kind of dissolved the barrier between the inner and outer worlds. He'd never really given much thought to dragonflies before, but now his attention had shifted. He noticed them more and more. He no longer believed in coincidence. Each new book he read, or each encounter with a dragonfly, was one more step towards something he calls re-enchantment.
I had in my mind what enchantment means. I mean, it's as a kid, you want to be enchanted. You want to have magic. You want to have awe. You want to have these amazing things that just grab all of your attention, happen to you all the time. But it turns out it's a historical moment when lives that had been enchanted for our entire history were suddenly disenchanted by modernity.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, a lot of that is the commodification of nature, where we've turned these natural subjects, which forever we interacted with, we learned from, they were part of our lives, the natural objects, the natural organisms, whether they be plant or animal. We worship them in cases. But when we commodified them, we turned them into objects which we wanted to manipulate and use and profit from. And
So lost the mystery in some ways.
we lost the mystery. The example I use is that we couldn't cut down entire forests to build temples and forts as long as the trees had spirits. So in a sense, we had to despirit them in order to buy, sell, and cut them. And now we have the pollution from that is causing what may be the worst problem humans have ever faced in climate change. So my sense is, if climate change, global warming, has its roots in disenchantment, in commodification, then wouldn't re-enchantment be part of the solution?
Then sort of reversing that trend and getting back to some of the awe and mystery that you're talking about.
Yeah, we just have to remember and start acknowledging that the world is enchanted.
There's this term that you use in the book that I'd never heard of before to describe what it is that you're talking about. You call yourself an imaginal ecologist. What is imaginal ecology?
That's been a really important thing for me. And mainly a man named Tom Cheatham in Maine had written a lot about it, and he was very clear about it not being imaginary. Imaginary is something that we make up in our minds. But the imaginal realm is like a real place somewhere between ordinary reality and the world of what Corbin called the world of angels. And I feel like this world of dreams, this idea of enchantment, is all related to that idea of the imaginal realm.
So there is a close connection between the re-enchantment you talk about and the imaginal world.
Yeah. I can't say how or why, but that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That re-enchantment involves acknowledging that there is this imaginal space in our lives, and that once we learn how to inhabit it, then our lives become more multidimensional and much more interesting, for sure.
I like it. You keep on bringing me back to this word mystery, and that imaginal world and that enchanted world is like at the core of it, I suppose, is a lot of mystery, isn't it? The things that you don't know are as interesting as the things that you do know that you can put your finger on.
Exactly.
I got to say, though, a lot of people might be listening saying this all feels a bit woo-woo to me.
Yeah.
So I am genuinely curious about this. How do you reach people that might argue that this is nonsense and not worth pursuing? Because honestly, I ask you because I'm on a bit of a similar path and have been for a while. I'm a scientist, but I also walk through the woods and I talk to trees and I talk to myself. All of the things that connect me to the earth in that imaginal, as you call it, realm.
Yeah.
But I don't talk about it very often.
Well, and that's the thing.
And scientists, serious scientists, right? probably shy from it, don't they? Because
yeah.
it's not serious science and they don't want to be disregarded because of it. So what do you do when you have a conversation with someone who doubts it?
I'm getting more comfortable with it happens to come up around a dinner table somewhere. I really am amazed at how many people feel like the way you do, but they also know there's something else there, and they're afraid and uncomfortable talking about it. But that comes out after a while. And I feel like my job is to just talk about it as much as possible.
I mean, you tell in your book you tell a story about a dinner that you had with a friend whose husband had just passed away, and a dragonfly showed up, and you wrote that you could sense both the biological and the imaginal roles of the dragonfly in that moment. What happened there at that dinner?
Well, you bring it up now, and I'm getting some chills now because I remember it exactly. And these were people that were not dead set against this idea that something else is going on that we can't prove or explain. And this woman had just lost her husband, and we were outside, and this wind started where it came from nowhere, and there was leaves, and it was swirling around, and it was like we all just went whoa, and we kind of held down the tablecloth and if we had a hat. I mean, it was just this temporary like maelstrom, and there was a dragonfly in there like that, and somebody said, not me, oh, that might be Doug coming back to tell us he's okay. That they had heard these myths from across the world where dragonflies, they carry the souls of the dead. Some believe that if you see a dragonfly near the time that somebody has passed, that person has come back to you to let you know that they're safe and they love you and they're fine. That it's a positive thing. So there was that whole idea of it. And in fact, that dragonfly, the wind stopped and that dragonfly flew into the open door of the house where we were. And I was worried because it was a sunroom, and I found dead insects in there that have gotten trapped. And sure enough, I went in there and the dragonfly was kind of banging against the window to get out. And I was able to trap it, And it was really great because it was a big darner. I think it was a Arctic darner, if I remember. Big blue dragonfly. And it was bigger than my hand, and I was holding it like this. And I wanted, before I released it, I wanted everyone to see it. So I said, it's going to be quick, but let's have a look at one of the most beautiful creatures on Earth. So I opened my hand, and it sat there no more than 2 seconds. And it was just there, and then it just took off. And I think everyone there were 5 of us, felt the presence of this recently deceased person.
I have a friend from the Lummi Nation, Coast Salish friend, so just a few miles from here. Her name's Lisa, and I know that she's really connected to dragonflies. So I texted her yesterday telling her that I was going to meet you, and I said, tell me why you connect with dragonflies, and I just thought you might enjoy hearing it. The reason I connect with the dragonfly is that the meaning of the dragonfly is transformation, and I've transformed so many different times in my life. But the key to the connection is when I think about knowing that the dragonfly starts its journey in the mud and rises above to become this beautiful creature. So when I see it, it reminds me of transforming and becoming the best possible self that I can be. Though I struggle here and there, it's always a good reminder of always wanting to strive for better. And it's also been stated that dragonflies are reminders for people that are in their spirit world, and they're supposed to remind us of our ancestors and the ones that we've lost. And it was just another wow moment preparing to meet you, talking to Lisa. I feel like you've stumbled across something 20 years ago, a cohort of people who get the dragonfly thing, right?
But the thing is, let's talk about a little more about not just dragonflies, because I want to be careful.
No.
Because I don't want anyone to believe that the dragonfly is the only creature capable of these. They all are. I mean, for grizzly bears, it's funny. So my father-in-law is 92. He's a real macho guy, and he's really struggling as he gets older, but he's really a macho guy. Loves big animals. We would always go look for elk during the rut up in Jackson Hole. I mean, he'd been on walks where it was precisely to look for grizzly bears. He's really into the big. And he said, "Hey, Brooke, I read your book cover to cover, and I think it's really well written. But what I don't understand is like why you pick some little teeny weird insect when you could have like done the same thing with a bison, for God's sake."
I love your dad.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I have you read this line from your book? Putting you on the spot there. It starts there.
Okay. "We live in bodies that are largely unchanged since the Pleistocene, trying to make them work in a world which is vastly different from the one for which evolution designed us. Perhaps acknowledging this is a big step towards solving some of our current problems."
I love that, and it struck me because I think it is so important, given everything that you're saying, that we reconnect with nature in ways that we are not used to, that we used to be fluent in, right?
Yeah.
And maybe is that what you're getting
Yes.
at? That if we can...
I think this has always been who we are.
Yeah.
And it's like getting back to that is, I feel, so important. And
it's beyond science, though.
so beyond science. But it's so amazing. I tell my students that they kind of roll their eyes back when we talk about these things a bit. And I say to them, I may be right and I may be wrong. I believe this, but it may not be true. Who knows? But I'll guarantee you, if you live this way, your life will be much more interesting. And I think that's true.
What's the guidebook for reenchantment?
I think that's a really good question. And I don't like the idea of going back, but I feel like we have these bodies that know how to adapt. And it's not like we have always learned how to adapt to just one particular thing. Like to know when the saber-toothed tiger is coming after us, that was part of it. But it's about adapting to any changing conditions. That's what evolution really is. It's not about improvement. But we have these evolutionary... I look at it like a pilot light in your water heater, which is always burning whether or not it's really heating the water. It's always there. And how do we make that work for us? How do we use that to adapt to where we are? That's the big question. And it's not about going back. It's about just using what we have and always have. For how many millions of years has this been ongoing? We are amazingly successful.
So you write then that enough re-enchanted people will re-enchant the whole world, and it's something that people are trying to do. Perhaps I love the re-enchantment. I'm going to start using it, and there are so many ways that you can try to do that, and I try to do it with my work. It's why we're sitting here. It's why I tell stories and interview amazing people like you. I want to re-enchant people and bring them back to loving nature. If you could wave a magic wand and re-enchant a piece of society, like whether it's education or politics or technology, you name it, what would you start with? Where does the re-enchantment start?
For me, there's some main factors. One is to stop believing that two things that happen are coincidental, and start believing that it's synchronicity, which is meaningful coincidences, which is the way Carl Jung defined synchronicity. That when two things happen together, something is going on, and to pay attention to that, and never to say, oh, that was just a coincidence. When the person who's been to the funeral of their grandmother and they see the dragonfly, they don't say, oh, that was just a coincidence. They say there's something going on there, and you start to learn what that is. And I think that's a real beginning of it. Look at that!
Oh, wow. Heron just flew over.
Isn't that amazing?
That was just meant to be. It looked like it was going to land where we're sitting, and then it changed its mind.
Well, I was hoping that if it did land, it wasn't landing to correct me. I heard what you said, and most of it's okay, but...
Actually, what Jung said was...
yeah.
Okay, you work with young people all the time. You mentioned a minute ago about your students, and sometimes some of their eyes roll when you bring this stuff up. Back to my question about how do you reach each of them? If you say it's individual at a time kind of thing, for individuals to change, how do you convince them? Writing a book is an awesome way to start, isn't it? But societally, how do you create that tipping point, I guess?
That's the $1 million question. I love that story of the 100th monkey story, where there's some scientists that realized that they were throwing their extra sweet potatoes out onto the beach for these monkeys to eat. It's apocryphal probably, but it's a story to talk about quantum physics. And these monkeys would eat these sweet potatoes. They loved them. And then one day, an older female monkey took her sweet potato down to the edge of the island and washed the sand off and ate it. And some other monkeys saw her do that and thought, well, that's nice to have a sweet potato with no sand on it. And they say it was 100 monkeys out of 500 on that island, that once 100 monkeys were doing it, then even on other islands, remote, unconnected, other monkeys started doing that. Mm-hmm. So there's this quantum non-locality idea that once a certain percentage of the population starts to live that way, then it just expands quantumly. And so it's not like a giant thing that has to happen. It's just subtle in each of us as individuals. And like I wrote, I think it's like I was told somewhere to like be one of those monkeys. And I think it's true.
Does it stay in your mind?
You guys are one of those monkeys already, I can tell.
I feel like I'm on a path to find kindred spirits, and I feel like I just found one this morning.
No question.
Brooke. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
So nice.
Thank you.
Brooke Williams is a naturalist, environmental author, and teaches creative writing at Colby College in Maine. He's also a dreamer and a dragonfly listener. His latest book is Encountering Dragonfly, Notes on the Practice of Reenchantment. If this conversation stirred something in you, consider going outside, finding a still pond or a quiet edge, and just waiting. You might meet your own messenger. Thanks for listening to The Wild. If you like what you hear, share it. Tell a friend about the podcast or leave us a rating and review. It helps. And don't miss an episode. Subscribe. It's free and easy. The Wild is a production of KUOW in Seattle and Chris Morgan Wildlife, with support from Wildlife Media. Matt Martin produced this episode. Jim Gates is our editor. Our theme music is by Michael Parker. Additional music from MusicBed and Blue Dot Sessions. The Wild is hosted, produced and written by me, Chris Morgan. A very special thank you for their kind financial support to Jill and Scott Walker, Rose Letwin, Ellen Ferguson, the Isdell family, Anna Kimball, Barbara Stallman, John Taylor, Paul Lister, Bob Yellowlease, and John and Julie Hanson. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves and nature so that nature can take care of you like she does every day.